Welcome to another episode of Walking in the Light. This is another interview, one that I'm excited about sharing with you. Today I interview two of my very best friends and brothers in Christ, Mark Lewis and Michael Dallas. They both live in the Athens, Georgia area, which is where I used to live before coming down to Florida 10 years ago. Mark and Michael were members of one church, which merged with another one, a feat that unfortunately seems so difficult to accomplish. We'll talk about the hard parts, the not so hard parts, lessons learned, and so on. So if you're a member of a church that's considering merging with one or more churches, take a look. You'll hear some very valuable information. So here's Michael and Mark. Thank you guys for doing this. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so you guys merged churches together, and it's such a wonderful, encouraging thing. And like I said, sometimes daunting task, hard to do. It seems that churches split easier than they come back together. So I just wanted to talk to you guys because you did it successfully, and just get a little insight as to how you guys did. So do you guys remember like a single moment when the idea of putting the churches came about, or was it kind of like a evolution kind of thing?
In my memory, it was kind of an evolution type thing. Um, there were a lot of little discussions going on. For example, Mark and I might be together somewhere, and it would come up, and we would talk about that was that's a good idea. This is something we probably need to do. And those things happened, I think, among many different conversations that were going on.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you had, if you had a line of this is us getting together, there would just be like we kind of get close and then it could go back again and kind of just up and down over the years. Circumstances would change, people at different congregations would change. So there might be little things going on that might push it in one direction and then pull it back in another direction. So, but it was what got it going finally was the drive. I think the two preachers had been working together for months, if not years. And it was a goal that they both had. So it wasn't that they forced it. It's just they tried to make sure the conversation just kept going. So for us, it would just kind of come up every few months and we'd talk about it more until it became more practical.
How did y'all like facilitate? Did you have group meetings? Did you come together as both churches and have meetings, that kind of thing along the way?
Eventually, we did, but before we got to that point, we had to hash out among the people who had been there when the split. It's important to remember that we have a good number of members now who were not there when the split took place. So we had to first mend the split between the ones that were there. And so that was the initial couple of meetings that we had. And I say couple, it may have been more than that, but first you had to heal. You had to heal,
Yeah.
and I don't think heal is too strong a word because, and I think Mark would agree with this. There was a lot of hurt, unfortunately, which as we all know should not be taking place in the Lord's church. But we had to fix some things.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
And
Mark.
then we talked about it a lot in our group, especially during the men's meetings. They talked a lot about it in their group, and then it was almost unofficially like emissaries. Like Michael and I might have a conversation with a couple of men, and then a couple other men might have. It started like that, and then once we decided we're all on board, we started having group meetings. And we did talk amongst the men, but we also wanted to have group meetings where the women could hear what was going on. Those members that weren't in business meetings could at least hear the discussion and then share their concerns with everyone else.
Yeah. You said like months or years. Do you like kind of how long of a process was this?
From when we decided, okay, we're going to make this happen, it was probably, I'd say, we kind of got serious about January, and then we met as a group for the first time as Classic City at the end of June. So once we said, okay, everybody is mostly on board, it was about 6-7 months.
That's pretty good. I know
Yeah,
there's a
it was
lot of
pretty good.
stuff leading up to that, but once you kind of pull the trigger, that's pretty good.
The groups were separated for about 5 years or so, 6 years maybe, before we turned back to let's get together.
And you guys were in different geographical locations, and so when you decided to come together, you both agreed you're going to move from where you were geographically, physically, and then come to a new place. Do I have that correct?
Yes, kind of, pretty close. The very first meeting that we had between the two groups, the very first thing that was said is we want a new start. We want a complete, just a fresh start. We're a new group, and for the most part, we've been very successful at doing that. And I think as we move into a new building, that will become even more the case.
The message of the first year was unity.
Yes.
The preachers led us an excellent class, and then a series of lessons on unity, what it looks like, why is it important. And we didn't want Classic City we didn't want University joining Oglethorpe. We didn't want Oglethorpe joining University. We wanted to build a new group. And so Oglethorpe and University had their last meeting, and Classic City had its first meeting. And we have striven that's the word to use every time, Classic City. Somebody will say, oh, back when we did it this way, and there's just kind of a gentle, no, this is how we've been doing it. Other groups that we were in previously might have done things this way or that way, but this is what our group does. So we strive very hard not to have there's us and them kind of thing. It's us. And that's the drive to build a building. Obviously, we had to worship in one place. So we continued worshiping where the one congregation had been. But our drive ever since we started was to get our own building that was Classic Cities and no history of anybody else.
So one of the reasons this is kind of on my mind is we tried to do that here, and we got a little ways down the road. We didn't quite make it happen, and now it's just kind of fizzled again. But one of the things we talked about was abandoning both physical locations and coming to a new location and starting a brand new church with a brand new name would cut out a lot of problems. So did y'all kind of have that mindset too?
We did have that mindset, and again, that was number one. That was the first thing that we had to agree on, and fortunately, we did agree on, and everyone was on board with that. So we didn't have a big problem with that part. As Mark mentioned, some things come up. We have to have some general reminders, but everybody was pretty much on board with that from the very get-go.
Mm-hmm. Good. What do you think? What was the hardest thing about combining? And as you're thinking about that, think about also what was the easiest thing about it?
The hardest thing to me was we wanted everybody on board, 100%, everybody in both places. And early on, the conversation was, if somebody has a problem, then we're not going to do this. And we kind of had to get past that. And I don't want it to sound callous or anything, but you have 30 or so people at each group. There's nothing that us men are going to do that's going to make 60 people happy and on the same page. And we had to decide what is more important, having one group serving this area in the best way it can, or having multiple groups. And the overall consensus was the one group working together really strong. And unfortunately, not everybody's problems could be mended. And some people chose not to be a part of the group. They didn't have ill feelings. They moved on to another congregation just to say they didn't want to be in the way. So it was, I think the hardest part was that realization that if we wanted everybody 100% to be on board, then it wasn't going to happen. And that was the most unfortunate part. That was the part that almost made it not happen. And to this day, it's still the heartbreaking part. But we feel as a group, we've made the best decision for the group, and we're just trusting that that's what the Lord wanted for us.
I would agree with that. That was by far the hardest part, and the process of trying to get everybody on board was difficult, and several of us, Mark and I included, recognized from the very beginning that probably was not realistic. We didn't want to lose a soul over it, but the ones we did lose, they are faithful members of other groups. They are working for the Lord. I don't think we would have lost people to the point they would lose their souls over bringing the groups back together. But getting everybody to meet as that group was by far, I think I agree with Mark, the most difficult part.
And in my discussions when we were doing this, I reached out to some, I think you two guys as well. So and some other people, and some people who had done this successfully, and they wanted that 100%, but they realized they weren't going to get it. So they backed down their number to whatever it was, 75, 80%, whatever. And so it is hard to get 100% of people on the same page, because it's always going to be something. So for advice for anybody who might be listening to this is be realistic about your expectations, I think, because it's very hard to get everybody. But you might have to come in with some threshold and saying, okay, if we get 80%, then we're going to move forward. And the people that we lose, hopefully will go to another congregation and so on, like that, like you said.
You don't want to lose that 20, 15, 20%, whatever the number ends up being, over scriptural things. It needs to be over other things that are not scriptural. If we've got scriptural issues, we've got bigger issues. We all recognize that.
And that's the first thing we did. We said, okay, what are the scriptural issues that would separate these two groups from getting together? And again, it comes down to maybe what I might think is scriptural and you might not think is, and then we can't see eye to eye on that. But there was nothing doctrinal that separated the groups. So the easiest thing kind of touches on that. The easiest thing was when we would get together and say, what are the benefits? It'd be a long list of benefits. I mean, everybody involved saw the benefits of getting the two groups together. That was the easiest thing. What has impressed me the most is that not everybody was 100% let's do it, but the people that did it said, okay, this is maybe not what I like. I like using this songbook. I like worshiping in this building. But people could put all those things aside, because the easiest thing was the convincing people why two groups being one would be better. And in our belief, better for what the Lord wants. You mentioned that we were in different areas, but Oglethorpe was in the city limits of Athens. University had they had several different places they met over the years, but we're servicing the Athens area. And so we just felt it'd be stronger. Our influence would be greater if we had one group serving the Athens area, particularly when people came to the university or came to visit. They didn't have to try to decide which group. There's one group, and then they can come and support that.
Was there anything that just kind of went easy that just maybe you weren't expecting to, and just like, wow, that happened easy and great? Was there anything like that?
To me, once we started worshiping together, I was amazed at how easy it went. Since that June, the June date when we met the first time, which we just passed our 1-year anniversary a couple of weeks ago, I anticipated there might be more issues than we've had. It's been it's been a wonderful year all in all. I mean, everything is, you're going to have bumps in every road, but we've had very few bumps in our road. It's gone very well. At least I feel.
What surprised me about being easy was actually the finances. The finances was pretty easy. Both the men in both groups were like, we need to get from 2 accounts to 1 account as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Now we kept 2 accounts going because Oglethorpe had owned the building, and so we were having to sell that. We were worshiping in the space the university had until we get a new place. But probably the unexpectedly easiest part was the sale of the Oglethorpe building. We were worried that would be years, and it was a matter of months.
Good point, Mark. That may be the easiest thing.
I mean, we thought, after the lease runs out where we're currently at, we might have to go back to Oglethorpe. And Oglethorpe, somebody bought it and actually donated it to a charity. And so, that was by far the easiest part for that.
You might call that providential.
You might.
Yeah.
It did kind of put a stamp on it that said, we all want to do the Lord's will, and we all say, if the Lord wills this, but we are men. And so we try our best to figure out what is right and try to make sure we're not doing anything wrong. But sometimes you don't immediately know this is what the Lord wants. And I don't want to say it was a vision or a sign or anything, but it certainly seemed like a stamp of approval that there was a buyer interested in that building that quickly.
Mm-hmm. I felt like it was like a general who crossed the river or the body of water with his men and then burned the ships. Hey, we're going forward now. There's nowhere to go back.
That was Cortez, by the way. So nice tie-in there. Appreciate that. So we only got about 5 minutes left, so I'd like to spend that time wrapping up anything. But one question that I want to kind of put in there is, what advice do you have to any other Christians or churches that might be considering doing this?
Patience, pray.
Patience, hold to the truth. If you're doing the will of the Lord, everything's going to work out. I just truly believe that.
You're going to have somebody at each group that says, we need to make this happen. If you have a bunch of people saying, wouldn't it be great? Then it's probably never going to happen. I mean, I don't mean somebody taking charge or anything, but somebody needs to have that push. Somebody who might say, I'm just going to sit back, and they might need to say, all right, I got to step up a little bit and poke the bear, or, push some buttons, try to make meetings happen. Some of those meetings are going to be really painful, especially if person A at this congregation never, has bad feelings about person B at that congregation. Until we had all of those conversations, there wasn't any chance to get in the groups together.
And we're really good in church. I'm an old football coach, so I'll use this analogy. We huddle up a lot, but we never break the huddle and run to play. So you got to break the huddle and run to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The talking's got to stop, and it's got to move forward. Leadership has to do that. Leadership has to get that going, whatever the leadership in your group is.
Yeah, and I kind of equate it to football analogy, having a cheerleader. You need a cheerleader in both groups that's pushing this and really, advocating for it. And then I can see how you kind of draw people in that way. So I definitely see that.
It would have been a lot easier if we had elders.
Yeah. Yep.
That's part of the reason. That's one of the many reasons is now we have a larger base of men that, Lord willing, we will be able to appoint elders.
That's one of the things we talked about. We have a larger pool to draw from for elders and deacons and song leaders and teachers. And so you have a larger pool rather than having, here we have 3 different congregations that are very small. And so, it's hard to draw from that. If we were to pool our resources, we'd have all that to draw from.
Of course, if we'd had elders, we might not have been in this position to begin with. But
well, there's that.
But we were in the position, and we are here now, and it is better on all
And
those counts just mentioned.
and from what so y'all sold the Oglethorpe property, and now from what I understand, you guys are building a new building. Is that
We
right?
bought a shell of a building, so we own some dirt that's got a shell of a roof and walls on top of it. That's what we have.
Hey, that's all you need, right?
Right.
We could actually meet there. It might not be comfortable, but we could meet there. And yes, we're hopeful that we're going to be built out and in that building by the end of December.
Wow, that's wonderful.
And
And so this is really a success story, and to the point where, even the physical part of it, if you're building a new building and under a new work, and people coming together, it's really a success story. So I commend you guys on doing it. I know you two didn't do it alone, but I know that I wanted to talk to you guys because you're my good friends and my good brothers in Christ. So I wanted to have this conversation. But I know there was a lot of people pulling the rope here. So I know that all came together very well. One last thing, as far as like eldership and deacons and that kind of thing, where are you guys in that process?
talking about it,
Yeah.
the beginnings of talking about it is how I would answer that. David, David Dan, our preacher, is, brought it up a couple of times. I think we're talking about it. I don't know how else to say it. We're talking.
Yeah.
We're taking a good look at the characteristics, and hopefully men are seeing how they measure up and figuring out what they need to address to one day become an elder, whether it's here or in another congregation.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time. God bless you guys in doing this. It's wonderful to hear. Like I said, it's putting churches together is a monumental task. Taking them apart seems to be pretty easy. So I commend you on what you've done, and God bless you guys. It's so wonderful to hear, and look forward to hearing more about the success of the Classic City congregation. So God bless you guys. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I'll see you again hopefully really soon.
Hopefully real soon. Thank you for having us.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
We welcome you to join us at the Cortez Church of Christ, located in the beautiful historic fishing village of Cortez, Florida. Here you'll find a welcoming church that worships God according to sound biblical teaching. We meet on Sundays at 10 a.m. for Bible study, 11 a.m. for worship, and also for a midweek Bible study on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. We look forward to seeing you then.